Welcome to Blocks Live TV. Today is Tuesday, April the 16th. We're now live with the latest in the crypto world. It's 9:30 a.m. in New York City and 2:30 p.m. in London, 10:30 p.m. in Tokyo and 3:30 p.m. here in Malta. Well, after posting slight gains yesterday, digital assets have retreated and the total market capitalization sees some support above the $170 billion level. The cryptocurrency index CCI 30 has stabilized above the 3,000-point mark after the recent decline. The top 30 cryptocurrency index stands 15% in the green month to date. It's up by close to 40% so far this year. The 30-day Bitcoin volatility index stood unchanged at close to 3.5% yesterday. It has remained above the 3% level for nearly 2 weeks now. The CoinMarketCap website's 24-hour traded volume indicator rose above the $46 billion mark overnight, but it has since pulled back towards the $40 billion zone. The Messari website's so-called Real 10 daily volume has jumped back above the $1 billion level to stand at more than $1.6 billion. The Bitcoin dominance indicator stands at just above 52% mark, as altcoins suffered more than the Bitcoin in this market pullback. The top 5 digital assets are mostly trading in the red, and Litecoin has been pushed south to 6th position. Bitcoin is holding the key support level at 5,000 USD. Ether saw support around the 160 price range, and XRP is testing the 32-cent support line. Bitcoin Cash actually bucks the generally bearish trend with a rise of 6% as Bitcoin SV is once again in trouble. EOS is once again the top 5 assets by market cap despite a decline of 2.5%. The Coin 360 heat map shows a generally bearish picture here. Bitcoin Cash does stand out from the crowd. It's one of the few assets that are trading in the green. Now, according to the Token Spread website, the BitMEX and CX exchanges have the biggest intermarket spread of 2.3%. The XMO exchange posts the biggest single market spread of 0.21%. We'll now take a look at some of the characteristics of the ARK project and its native coin. Well, this ecosystem was created with the aim to give anyone the power to easily create and customize and scale their own blockchain projects. Smart Bridges is one of the most notable features in the platform as it connects separate blockchains via the ARK ecosystem. The ARK coin fuels the system. Its price jumped above the $10 level in January of 2018. Well, as of today, the coin can be purchased at just slightly more than 60 cents. We'll now review the performance of the various cryptocurrency assets by classes grouped by the Messari website. The infrastructure group is one of the worst performers with a decline of nearly 4% as we see red across the table. Starting off, the media and entertainment category is the top performer as the group stands at less than 2.5% in the red. Theta Token and Edgeless are providing some bullish support. Now, the financial sector is red across the table and the asset class is nearly 4% in the red. The currency category shows a similar decline as it stands also close to 4% in the negative territory. Bitcoin Cash is providing some support for this otherwise bearish asset class. And lastly, the services section is having a bearish day as well and also stands nearly 4% in the red. Well, this is where the 5 major cryptocurrency categories stand so far on this Tuesday. We'll now focus on the most significant moves among the top 100 cryptocurrencies to identify the top gainers and the biggest decliners. Just approximately 10 digital assets are trading in the green on this bearish day. Bitcoin Cash has jumped above the $300 level on a daily increase of just under 7%. The asset appears to be benefiting from the funds that are flowing out of Bitcoin SV. The Maximum coin shows an increase of just close to 5%. The asset was heading south last week, but the trend changed after hitting the 5-cent support level. The KuCoin shares token posts a rise of close to 3%. This comes after this asset rebounded from the $1 support level over the weekend. The Nebulous NAS token is nearly 3% in the green on a sharp increase. The Theta token has gained less than 1%. The asset has settled above the 12-cent mark following the most recent rise. Now taking a look at the decliners, a total of 3 assets post double-digit declines today. Bitcoin SV is the top decliner with a plunge of more than 21%. Binance and Shapeshift have announced delisting Bitcoin SV. Other exchanges are likely to follow, causing a massive sell-off for this Bitcoin fork. The Lambada token has retreated by 15% after the recent gains. The digital asset sees some support around the 10-cent mark. It's likely to drop out of the front page of the CoinMarketCap website if the decline continues. The Komodo coin has dropped by double digits as well. The sharp decline puts the price of this altcoin south of the $1 support level. The Worldwide Asset Exchange token is just under 9% in the red as it slips south of the 8-cent mark. The Huobi token posts a daily increase of nearly 9% as it trades at slightly more than $2.20. It has been trending down so far in this week. Well, these are the top 24-hour moves during the European morning trading session on this Tuesday. Join me after a short break where we'll be joined by our crypto experts to discuss some of the biggest moves of the day.
There are 180 different countries all around the world, which makes us grow in like a sphere.
We are stronger than ever.
Have these questions answered without disclosing anything.
AI field is mostly controlled by a few large corporations.
Much busier, bigger than ever.
In the mid-2020s. I do think that will come.
We should kind of keep in mind that we want the world to be a better place.
$15 billion a day. This is incredible.
People find a way to create infrastructure.
I think knowledge is one of the most important things in the world.
We laid the foundation for the distributed trust model that Satoshi builds on.
It does come with some risks, but at the same time, I think it's an opportunity for countries.
Individuals miss the boat on a market, they miss the boat. When the institutions miss the boat, they bring the boat back.
This is Blocks Live TV.
Well, we're back with this Tuesday's Crypto Now live show. We'll now join our crypto experts, Edward Iskra, member of the board at Bitcoin Gold, and Jason Fernandez, CEO and co-founder of AE Token. Great to have you both on the line with us today. So much has happened.
Hi, Jessica. Hi, Jason.
Hi, welcome both. Now we're going to jump straight in because so much has happened over the past 24 hours. Starting off, and Edward, we'll start with you. Cryptocurrency markets have mostly been trading sideways. Bitcoin holds the support of 5,000 US dollars. What are your thoughts on this most recent market moves?
I think we've shown that the prices have stabilized at the 5,000. There was a lot of concern that when we rose up to 5,000, there would be some sort of pullback. There are still people predicting some sort of plunge to 3,000 before Bitcoin can rise. It hasn't happened, and I think we've shown good consolidation around 5,000. In fact, yesterday, there was a bit of bad news. There was a report that came out noting that there's a fair amount of bots that might be doing front-running and other sort of manipulation schemes on some of the decentralized exchanges, the DEXs. Now, there aren't a lot of DEXs yet, and there isn't a lot of volume on the DEXs, but it's important to recognize that there's a risk that they won't be as efficient as traditional markets. And this analysis was pointing out that this, which people are looking at as the future of exchanges, does have some risk. There was a pullback in prices late yesterday, which happened immediately after that report. So it's probably related to that, not just the general market turmoil. But even that was just a small pullback from the $5,200 Bitcoin range to the $5,000 Bitcoin range. When a piece of bad news comes out and fails to really push down prices, it's a sign that we have serious support. So I think it's all very positive.
Okay, so positive from you, Edward. Jason, how do you view the news that we're seeing at the moment?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think as long as we're above 5K, that's good. There's been huge support at 5K. I think it's been pretty surprising almost given all the turmoil in the cryptocurrency markets, that Bitcoin has still managed to be up over 5K. And I think the short-term outlook is good. And even in the long term, if you look at some of the sort of macro things that are happening, Donald Trump is weighing a remittance tax on money sent home by people living in the U.S. Illegally, and that potentially could drive people towards Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And indeed, we've seen several countries that rank high on immigration for the U.S., including Mexico and some South American countries, are reporting record levels of Bitcoin trading over the last week. So there's a whole bunch of fundamental factors that bode well for Bitcoin. And overall, the fact that it stayed above 5,000 and even in the 5,000 range just indicates that it's really strong and all the fundamentals are good.
Fantastic. And now we have to talk about the biggest talking point of the day. So Bitcoin SV delisting is one of the main headlines today. How did this all start? Edward, we'll start with you.
Well, it all emerged because the primary mover behind Bitcoin SV, a person named Craig Wright, who claims to be the originator of Bitcoin and claims to be the person behind the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto, has been becoming more vocal about his complaints when other people deny that he's the originator. He has demonstrated a lack of proficiency in some areas around the cryptography, and people have doubted his coding skills because the things that he posted were largely copied from other projects. And he has taken that as a personal offense, and he's begun trying to press suits against people who have been pointing out the weaknesses or just calling him out as a fraud. It's become popular to call him out as a fraud. Unfortunately for him, in the crypto space, resorting to legal lawsuits in particular countries is not going to get you any love. People are all about decentralization in the crypto space, especially the hardcore Bitcoin fanatics. And this caused a major backlash among those who are supporters of Bitcoin. The web rallied around Hodl, who was the first target, but not the only target of Craig Wright's lawsuits. And in addition to raising funds to support the legal defenses, some major players, including Binance, decided, CZ from Binance posted that he'll be delisting Bitcoin SV as a result of Craig Wright's activities because he believes they're harmful to the crypto space. And this is a huge thing to see a relatively major coin being delisted because of independent actions of one participant in that particular coin, but it also shows how tightly Bitcoin SV is wrapped around one particular individual, and therefore how centralized it is in terms of the market perception.
Certainly been interesting as well. So Jason, we have to look at the price movements here. We've seen Bitcoin BSV coin has plummeted by more than 20% following all of these latest events as they've been unfolding. I want to ask you, Jason, what do you think is next for this cryptocurrency?
Well, it doesn't look good. Bitcoin SV was delisted from Binance, also delisted from Shapeshift. Their CEO Eric Voorhees came out and said that basically that they were going to delist it in support of the community and anti what's going on with Craig Wright. Blockchain.com also announced that it was delisting it, and Kraken is conducting a poll which something like 70%, almost 60,000 votes have been cast, and 70% of them basically favor dropping Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. And the only people that are pretty much standing firm with them right now is OK Exchange, but it.
And it feels like we have a little bit of technical difficulties there with Jason. So, Edward, we'll turn this to you. What is next for the cryptocurrency here? We have seen some really interesting developments. How do you see the future of Bitcoin SV?
Well, we can see very clearly that at the time of the delisting announcement yesterday, Bitcoin SV prices took a serious nosedive. And at the exact same time, Bitcoin Cash took its big bump, and you talked about it being one of the big movers yesterday, earlier. The thing to remember here is that Bitcoin SV forked off of Bitcoin ABC in that very contentious fork just this past November. There was a run-up to that period where people are very worried about what would happen because of what I call the cash wars between the SV camp and the Bitcoin Cash camp. And at the time of the split, the price of Bitcoin Cash got sort of halved almost. It got seriously reduced, and part of that value was lost to Bitcoin SV because it was a true split of that chain. And at the same time, the uncertainty brought down all of the crypto markets. That was really the proximal cause of the deep dive that we saw in November. Now, since then, we've recovered much of that ground. Bitcoin used to be around 6,000. Today it's back up to 5,000. But we haven't recovered all of that ground. And more importantly, Bitcoin Cash hasn't really gained ground. If you price Bitcoin Cash in Bitcoin terms, you'll see that in the beginning of the summer of last year, say June, July, August, it was trading 8%, 9% of the price of Bitcoin. And it gradually declined over the course of summer to around 6%. And then it plummeted in November when the cash wars happened. The boost you see in Bitcoin Cash today brings it back up to that same 6% ratio of Bitcoin price. So it's really just recovering value that it lost in November when Bitcoin SV split off and absorbed some of that value. Conversely, Bitcoin SV is just losing some of that value that it temporarily took from Bitcoin Cash. And now, net-net, those ought to not impact the markets broadly, but they really did because the cash wars were so fundamentally disconcerting. I think we still have upside in terms of Bitcoin and the rest of the altcoin market returning to the levels that we saw at the beginning of November, the levels that we saw in October, and that's still to come. Bitcoin Cash particularly, although it has boosted itself back up to where it was as a percentage of Bitcoin, it has not gotten back up to where it was in dollar terms. So we have more recovery space in the recovery headroom in the coin space before we return to what we had last fall, never mind the new rises that would happen as the beginning of the next bull run, because we are, I believe, ready to begin the next bull run. It's just a matter of when it does start.
It's a matter of when. Now, we do have Jason back, the beauty of live TV. So, Jason, I'll turn our attention to you there because, Edward, you've summarised some points really well. And I think something that you have mentioned is that we have to acknowledge digital assets were on a rise, a sharp decline, following the Bitcoin Cash split in November of last year. Could this Bitcoin SV turmoil be dragging down markets today? Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, so I don't think infighting in the crypto industry ever helps the market. There's also been the much publicized spat between McAfee and Calvin Ayre. Basically the Binance Bitcoin SV debacle have basically set markets into a tailspin. Something like $6 billion have left the space. It's really not good for the market in general. And also, even the thing that's going on with between McAfee and Calvin Ayre, where essentially Calvin Ayre is suing a lot of people. He's not really suing them, but he's essentially sent cease and desist letters to several people who have said that basically Craig Wright is not Satoshi. And then there was a separate side spat between him and McAfee. And essentially, this is really not good for the industry. And I think that overall, it needs to be sorted out soon. Also, it's really controversial because if you think about Binance, many people are into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies because of the whole concept of decentralization. But Binance's actions and essentially coordinated actions from other cryptocurrency exchanges effectively mean that on the other side, that's pretty centralized as well, and one decision can kind of lead to multiple other decisions. So a lot of people are not really very happy about that. But one thing that Bitcoin SV has in its favor is that a lot of the people that have bought into Bitcoin SV are really true believers. So that might ensure it a little bit. But overall, I don't think it's good for the market.
And Edward, I want to ask you the same question. Are we seeing that actually the Bitcoin SV turmoil could be dragging down markets today?
Yeah, it obviously did drag down markets yesterday a bit, although, like I said, the majority of the impact was on Bitcoin SV and on Bitcoin ABC, Bcash. The fact that it was mostly limited to those and there wasn't a huge impact on the rest of the market is a good sign to me that we've picked up some resilience. Like Jason said, these individual spats have been commonplace in the space, and also, coin team versus coin team arguments have also been common. These are rising to the fore because they're so closely associated with Bitcoin. Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV aren't just forks of Bitcoin. They are forks that claim to be the real Bitcoin. But as Jason points out, the people in the Bitcoin space are sticking with Bitcoin are not running largely with Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV, so the impact has been somewhat limited. But it is definitely a concern, the decentralization factor, the fact that Binance's delisting can cause that big a price impact on one coin is a concern, especially for those who put in ETFs for ETF applications in the U.S. for Bitcoin. I mean, the ETF applications generally make the case that if we look at the top exchanges, we can tell what a true price of Bitcoin is. This shows that a single entity like Binance might have undue power, control, and influence over a global market price, and that's going to concern the SEC. So it may have some negative impacts, negative repercussions that will show up a little further down the line than just in the markets yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Okay, and Eva, just to summarise this one point before we move on to the next topic, so are you expecting that actually funds are flowing out of Bitcoin SV into Bitcoin Cash?
I'm all but certain of it. I'm sure that people have been pulling funds out of Bitcoin SV because that's what causes the declines we've seen. And we know some of that has gone into Bitcoin Cash because that's what causes the rise we've seen. There are other altcoins which also got a bit of a boost immediately after the Bitcoin SV delisting, including, I'm a member of the board of the Bitcoin Gold organization, but we couldn't help but notice that at that time, there was a boost happening in multiple altcoins, including our own coin. So there's some aspect of if this fork is dying, then let's put the money in the other forks for people who are hedging their bets and spreading out to altcoins.
Okay, interesting. Now we're going to move on to the topic now of adoption. And Jason, we'll start with you with this. We've actually seen Rakuten Bank has opened registrations for its cryptocurrency exchange in Japan. We've got Edward nodding here as well. What does this mean for adoption? Will we see a boost in the markets once the exchange goes live in summer of this year?
I think we will see a boost. Rakuten is basically a really interesting company. It's part Amazon and part PayPal. It's essentially a Japanese e-commerce giant. It's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, e-commerce player, and it's considered by many to be basically Japan's Amazon. And they operate in something like 29 countries. And their wallet, so now they're going to accept crypto payments on its platform and allow people to trade cryptocurrencies. And given the fact that their wallet operates in 29, basically their platform operates in 29 countries, it's likely to have a pretty high impact, not only a direct impact in terms of how many people are actually using Bitcoin or buying Bitcoin via or cryptocurrencies via Rakuten, but also the overall hype aspect of it, of people actually seeing that like a big, massive company like Rakuten is jumping on board with cryptocurrencies. We know Yahoo has been also in Japan has been getting into cryptocurrencies, and I think that really gives it a lot of credibility, and I think maybe probably brings new people into the market.
And Edward, what's your thoughts on this? Are you expecting that once the exchange does go live in summer of this year, you're expecting a boost in the markets?
No, but yes. So I agree with Jason's comments about the importance of Rakuten as the large retail player that it is in Japan. But it's also important to remember that Japan was one of the first countries to legalize the use of cryptocurrencies as currency. So we're talking about a company expanding into the crypto space, but doing so by starting in a country that's already more crypto-friendly than a lot of other places. I don't think the addition of another exchange is going to make a huge difference in Japan, but I think they will make a big difference in the broader sense of bringing more exposure to cryptocurrencies. As Jason notes, Rakuten is operating in dozens of countries worldwide, and they have significant market shares in many of those countries. That brings cryptocurrencies in front of people, and the fact that they have an exchange that they're going to have built in, if it's available right from their wallet, it'll make it a lot more accessible, a lot more visible to the broader retail public. So I think it will definitely have a boosting effect on the crypto space, but I don't think the launch of their actual exchange will sort of be a seminal moment that causes a big rise.
Okay, and Edward, at the beginning of this interview, you did mention CZ and Changpeng Zhao. Binance Coin could be the first top 20 cryptocurrency to actually post fresh all-time highs after the market has crashed. Is this an encouraging sign for markets as a whole, and particularly also for Binance?
Of course, it's an encouraging sign. Not just because there's some coin rising up. There's always some coin rising up, and half the time they're just pump and dumps. What's happening with Binance Coin is a real project doing real work getting the benefit of the community support, getting the benefit of the market valuation because of that work that they're doing. So it's definitely significant. The rise in Binance isn't just investment in Binance as a specific entity. It's an investment in the future of the space, because what Binance is working on is technology that will enhance the future of the space. So this is confidence in the future of the crypto space. It's very encouraging.
Fantastic. Well, Jason, Edward, thank you so much for joining us on the live show. Always a pleasure to catch up and hear your insights. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks both.
Thank you. Well, before we sign off, I do have a last-minute update from our editorial staff regarding the crypto market. The total market capitalization has continued moving sideways above the $170 billion mark. The CoinMarketCap website's 24-hour traded volume indicator shows no significant change, as well as it stands north of the $40 billion level. Bitcoin SV is still the most bearish asset, as it stands more than 20% in the red, while Bitcoin SV trades at more than 6% in the green. Well, that's all for this Tuesday's Crypto Now live show. We thank Edward Iskra and Jason Fernandez for their expert analysis. We'd also like to thank you, the audience, for joining us, and invite you all to accompany us every weekday at this same time.